We all know someone who just vanishes, right? One day they're there, the next they're gone. Or hey, maybe that person is you. So today we're going to dive deep into the psychology of that, why some people have this pattern of cutting everyone out of their life.
All right, just for a second, I want you to picture this. You wake up, you do what we all do, you reach for your phone.
And you look at the screen, nothing, no new notifications.
No missed calls from friends, no one who tried to reach you overnight. Just silence. And here's the thing, this isn't an accident. It's not because nobody cares. It's a quiet that's been carefully constructed, a deliberate choice to remove everyone, not with some big dramatic explosion, but with a slow, quiet fade to block. So what's really going on here? Is cutting everyone off a sign of real strength? Or is it maybe a sign of some unhealed wounds? That's the big question we're exploring today. Okay, to really get a handle on this, let's create a person we can talk about. We'll call them Alex. So who is Alex to the outside world? Well, if you met them, you'd think, wow, this person has it all figured out. They're 31, super smart, always calm, really polite. Everyone would describe Alex as independent. You know the type. Seems like they don't need anyone. But what happens when you pull back the curtain? The private reality tells a totally different story. Old friends? They're gone. That coworker they were super close with? Poof, ghosted. Family gatherings? Yeah, they're always busy. It seems like every important relationship in their life doesn't end with a fight or a conversation. It just ends with a disappearance. And if you could ask Alex about it, you'd probably get an answer that sounds super strong and healthy. Something like, I just don't tolerate nonsense anymore. And on the surface, that sounds great, right? Like they're just setting good boundaries. But the real reason goes so much deeper than that. See, it's not really about other people being nonsense. The truth is, for Alex, connection itself, well, it just feels unsafe. And that kind of deep-seated feeling doesn't just pop up out of nowhere. To really get it, we have to rewind. We've got to look back to childhood, where this whole pattern usually starts. Okay, first things first, we have to get something really clear. There's a huge difference between healthy boundaries and emotional avoidance. Our culture gets these mixed up all the time. A healthy boundary is saying, hey, this is what I need. It's about communication. Emotional avoidance, that's just disappearing because things feel uncomfortable. One is a conscious choice you make for self-respect. The other, it's an automatic, unconscious reaction that's driven by fear. So where does this fear come from? Well, you can often trace the roots right back to childhood. Just imagine being a little kid and every time you got upset, you were told, you're just being too sensitive. Or maybe you were constantly compared to your brother or sister. Or you were the kid who had to be strong for everyone else way too early. All of those experiences teach you a really powerful and really damaging lesson. And that lesson is this: my feelings are a problem. They're a burden. So instead of learning that it's okay to be sad or angry, you learn to just stuff it down. You learn to hide your feelings, to withdraw, because showing them only seems to cause trouble. And this childhood lesson creates this brutal repeating cycle in adulthood. It goes like this. First, you connect with someone and there's all this hope. But then inevitably, a normal disappointment happens. I mean, a tiny misunderstanding, a small conflict, the stuff of everyday relationships. But instead of talking it out, the shutdown happens. Then comes the disappearance. And finally, that little voice in their head says, see, I knew it. People always let you down. They're not just seeing a conflict, they're seeing a fundamental threat. It feels like a matter of survival. You know, this pattern creates a kind of peace, but it's an illusion. And it comes at a really, really high price. So let's talk about the illusion versus the reality. Think about it. A truly strong person, they talk about their feelings, they set boundaries, but they do it with respect. And, this is key, they give people a chance to fix things. But someone who's emotionally exhausted, they just vanish. They treat relationships like they're disposable. And the tragic end result is this deep, chronic loneliness. See, walking away isn't always strength. Sometimes it's just a survival mode that got stuck in the on position. Now, here's what makes this so tricky and so hard to break. The second you cut someone off, there's this immediate sense of relief, right? All that tension is just gone. We can call it emotional anesthesia. It's like taking a painkiller for a broken arm. It feels better for a little while, but it does absolutely nothing to actually set the bone and heal the wound. And just like with that broken arm, over time, the unhealed wound just gets worse.
The long-term costs are huge. You end up with almost no support system. Your tolerance for normal, everyday relationship stress gets lower and lower. You start to feel this growing numbness inside, and eventually, you just don't trust anyone.
But listen, if any of this is ringing a bell for you, if you see this pattern in your own life, please hear this. It does not have to be a life sentence. This is something you can change. So let's talk about how to break the pattern. Let's talk about learning how to stay. Okay, so here are 5 really practical steps you can take. Number 1, pause. Just pause. Before you hit that block button, ask yourself, am I setting a real boundary here, or am I just running from discomfort? Number 2, express your feelings, not judgments. We'll get more into that in a second. 3, make cutting someone off the absolute last option, not your first move. 4, try to separate a person's mistake from who they are as a whole. And number 5, and this one is so important, learn how to repair things. Healthy relationships aren't perfect. They're good at fixing the damage when it happens.
So, that second step, expressing feelings, not verdicts. What does that actually look like? Well, instead of saying something like, "You always disrespect me," which is a verdict that just makes people defensive, try sharing how you feel. Something like, "When that happened, I felt really hurt." See the difference? One slams the door, the other opens it up for a real conversation.
So here's the big takeaway. If you find yourself alone all the time, it might not be because you're too strong for other people. It's probably not because everyone else is the problem. It might just be you were never taught how to stay when things get tough.
And I want to leave you with one last question to really think about. That last person you cut off, the one you just disappeared on, was it truly necessary? Was it about your safety? Or was it because you were just completely and totally emotionally exhausted? Be honest with yourself, because the answer to that question, it could change everything for you.